Lesson 8.2, Properties of Parallelograms. Okay, so a parallelogram, all right, is a quadrilateral. What is a quadrilateral? It means it's a polygon with 4 sides, with both pairs of opposite sides parallel. All right, so that's what we have below here. These opposite sides are parallel. So I'm using arrowheads to indicate that they're parallel. Double arrowheads here to indicate that these are parallel. Okay. Now the symbol for a parallelogram is a parallelogram, a little mini parallelogram. So in the diagram, parallelogram, PQRS, PQ is parallel to RS. That's the parallel symbol, once again. And QR is parallel to segment SP. All right, so I already labeled the diagram. Now we have a bunch of properties for parallelograms. Let's take a look at these. All right, so if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then its opposite sides are congruent. PQ is congruent to RS. Segment SP is congruent to segment QR. All right, if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then its opposite angles are congruent. Angle P is congruent to angle R, and angle Q is congruent to angle S. If a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then its consecutive angles are supplementary. Okay, so these angles add up to 180. These angles add up to 180. These angles add up to 180. And these angles add up to 180. And the last one, if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram, then its diagonals bisect each other. All right, they bisect, so they cut each other in half. That piece is congruent to that piece, and PM is congruent to RM. All right, that's all there is to it. So you have all these properties to work with now for parallelograms. Let's do some examples and apply them. Example 1, find the value of the variables for the parallelogram. All right, well, it's a parallelogram, so I know the opposite sides are the same. X is equal to 9. And then I know Y is equal to 15. That's all there is to it. All right, for the next one, I know opposite angles are congruent. These are the same, so X is equal to 55. For the next one, I know that the opposite angles are congruent, so Y is equal to 42. How do I figure out X, though? Well, I know that these angles are supplementary. All right, they're consecutive angles. All right, so just go back to chapter 3. Here's my parallel lines. This is my transversal. Okay. So X, or 42 plus X, is equal to 180. Subtract 42, and X is equal to 138. Okay. For the next problem, I have X is equal to 4. And then I have Y is equal to 7, because the diagonals bisect each other. All right. Here are a bunch of basic examples where we applied parallelogram properties. Let's do some more examples. Find the value of each variable in the parallelogram. Okay, let's see what we have to work with here. All right, I know that these angles are congruent, opposite angles are congruent. So 2m is equal to 70. All right, divide by 2, m is equal to 35. All right, then I know that these two angles are consecutive interior angles. They add up to 180. So 2m plus p equals 180. There's a different way to do that as well. We could have just noticed that these add up to 180. So then you don't have to deal with the other variable. Doesn't matter though. You just figured out what m is, so you could just plug it in here if you wanted. But I'm going to do this. 70 plus p equals 180. Same deal. Doesn't matter how you approach it, you'll still get the same result. All right, done with that one. All right, for B, we have diagonals here, and we know that the diagonals bisect. So I know that these are equal. 6 is equal to W over 3. How do you get W by itself? Multiply by the denominator, always the bottom number. So I have 18 is equal to W. And then for the next one, I know that these are the same. So 2U plus 2 is equal to 5U minus 10. All right, so I'm going to subtract 2U. I have 2 is equal to 3U minus 10. I'll add 10. I have 12 is equal to 3U. Divide by 3. And U is equal to 4. For the next one, I know that opposite sides are congruent. So I'll start with these first. 2y plus 1 is equal to 4y minus 5. I only have one variable here. That's why I chose to do this setup first. So then I will subtract 2y. So I have 2y minus 5. Add 5. I have 6 equals 2y. Divide by 2. Y is equal to 3. All right, and now the next setup, I know that these are the same. So I have 4w is equal to y plus 1. All right, take the y and plug it in. 4w is equal to 3 plus 1. So 4w is equal to 4. Divide by 4. And w is equal to 1. Done. Find the measure in parallelogram ABCD. Okay. DE is what I have to figure out. DE. All right, well, I know that the diagonals bisect each other, so this must be 10. And BC, what's BC? Okay, I know that these have the same length, so that's 12. Measurement of angle ABC, I know that these angles here add up to 180. So if this is 120, this angle here must be 60 degrees. All right, for the next one, BA, I know that these two sides are the same, so that's 11. And then I have DBC, Oh, DCB, sorry. DCB, all right, I know that these angles here are the same. Opposite angles are congruent, so that's going to measure 120 degrees. And AC, this whole length here. All right, well, I know that these pieces have the same length, so that's 8. But I want the whole thing, so I have to add them both together. That's 16. That's all there is to that. Example 4, we got some proofs here. All right, given that the figure is a parallelogram, prove that the triangles are congruent. Okay, let's hear approach 1. All right, so I just have to fill in the blanks. The statement is BA is congruent to CD. BA is congruent to CD. So you would say opposite sides of, that should be a D, sides of a parallelogram are congruent. All right, I was able to fit it all in there. Then CDB is congruent to ABD. Those are alternate interior angles. And then we have BD is congruent to BD. That's simply the reflexive property. And then which shortcut can we apply now? Well, we have side, angle, side. Side, angle, side. SAS. All right, there's a second approach we could take. Let's see how that works out. So if angle C is congruent to angle A, all right, the reason here would be opposite angles of a parallelogram congruent. All right, then CBD is congruent to ADB. All right, and so I have these two parallel sides here. This is my transversal. These angles are alternate interior angles. Alrighty, and then BD is congruent to BD. That's just the reflexive property. Okay, so now I know the triangles are congruent by what shortcut? A, S. A, S. Alright, that's all there is to it. If you have any questions, please make sure to ask. You have some new tools now regarding parallelograms. Begin the assignment.